Hold on to your wigs because the courtroom just turned into a Hollywood horror show. Forget red carpets and superhero smiles because Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson just dropped the most shocking testimony of the decade and nobody was ready for it. This wasn't a movie promo. This wasn't a feel-good speech. This was raw, real, and downright terrifying. It all unfolded in the federal trial of Sean Diddy, Holmes, and when Dwayne stepped through that courtroom door, the entire gallery literally froze. Gone was the swagger, gone was the charm. Standing there wasn't the people's champ, it was a haunted man, trembling, eyes heavy with secrets he had kept buried for nearly 2 decades. The silence was deafening, not even the click of a pen. And then he spoke. I don't want to be here, but I have to be. I've lived with something that's eaten at me for almost 20 years. Girl, jaws dropped. Diddy himself went stiff. His legal team started whispering like the ship was sinking, and trust me, it was. Dwayne didn't come to throw shade, he came to unleash truth. But he revealed initiation rituals, dark secrets, rituals involving raw monkey brains, locked doors, humiliation, and fear. And behind it all, one man orchestrating the whole twisted empire, Diddy. Let's rewind. The year was 2001. Dwayne had just transitioned from wrestling to film. Scorpion King had hit big. He was hungry, ambitious, and according to him, naive. That's when Diddy swooped in, acting like some industry fairy godfather. Diddy made me feel like he could open every door in Hollywood. He told me, let's talk off the record. I thought it was just business. I had no idea what was coming. It started small, exclusive parties, elegant events, champagne, producers, casting agents, Dwayne said. But over time, those gatherings shifted into something darker. The champagne faded, the smiles disappeared. Suddenly, it wasn't about connections. It was about compliance. Diddy would ask me, are you down for greatness? Would you bleed for it? I laughed. He didn't, and that's when the nightmare truly began. Dwayne described being summoned to a house in Bel Air at 2:13 a.m. alone. Isolated at first, he thought it was business as usual. But then, a group of men in black suits silent entered the room. No one spoke. The lights dimmed. Hidden speakers played an audio loop of Diddy's voice. Are you worthy? Are you ready? Would you eat what I feed you? Let that sink in. Dwayne thought it was some twisted performance art. But deep inside, his gut screamed something was wrong. Then came the invitation that would change his life and break a piece of his soul. I was told to meet Diddy outside LA. My publicist said it could change my life. They were right, just not how I thought. Blindfolded, driven to an undisclosed location, escorted by 2 silent men into a candlelit room wrapped in black fabric. Inside, 5 men in suits. At the head of the table, Diddy himself, laughing, relaxed, holding a crystal goblet filled with a dark, oily liquid. Then they brought out the tray. No explanation, no ceremony, just a cold steel plate and, on it, raw monkey brains, still steaming, wet, trembling. Yes, you read that right. The courtroom collectively gasped as Dwayne looked down and trembled. Billy told me everyone who made it ate it, and everyone who didn't vanished. Diddy handed him a spoon, smiling, calm, and then whispered the words that would haunt Dwayne forever. Hollywood isn't about talent, it's about obedience. Dwayne broke down on the stand, he couldn't hold it back. His voice cracked, his hands shook. I was scared. I was humiliated. And I was alone. He ate it, not because he wanted to eat, but because he didn't see another way out. The room laughed, the men clapped, and Diddy, welcome to level 2, he said. Dwayne's soul shattered. It wasn't about what I ate, it was about what I gave up to do it. This wasn't initiation, it was psychological war. Dwayne told the court how things spiraled from there, how the conditioning began. Not just humiliation, but brainwashing. They didn't need chains, just silence, confusion, and control. From that moment on, Dwayne said things changed. He was no longer treated like an outsider, but the respect came with a price. They needed to test if I would stay silent, if I would obey. He was invited to a business retreat in the desert. But when he got there, no agents, no studios, just other entertainers. Some already stars, others on the rise, locked in rooms, windows sealed, phones confiscated, music blaring for hours, food served at odd intervals, chanting affirmations, memorizing bizarre scripts. I thought it was performance training, but then it clicked. This wasn't about growth, it was about submission. They weren't breaking bodies, they were breaking wills. Dwayne started losing sleep, doubting himself, feeling hollow. It wasn't about acting anymore. I was being repurposed, molded, silenced. And then came the rewards. Film roles, studio deals, people whispering, "Did he vouch for you?" But the price tag? I wasn't being offered opportunities. I was being given assignments. He said Diddy had power beyond music, investments, media, favors, and if you stepped out of line, you vanished. Once, Dwayne declined an invite. The next day, a studio dropped him from a major film. No explanation. Silence wasn't expected. It was mandatory. Everyone around him knew the game. His managers, agents, no one dared speak Diddy's name unless it was praise. You learn quick. The people who control Hollywood don't do it out in the open. It's whispers, favors, debts. Then came the night that broke Dwayne's loyalty for good. A private screening in the Hollywood Hills, or so they said. The house was dark, security on every door, phones taken, guests given masks. Not for flair, for anonymity. It felt like an initiation, not mine, someone else's. And what he saw shattered the illusion forever. Actors he admired, directors, musicians, not partying, not celebrating, but acting out roles, trying to prove themselves, lost, empty. I saw a young actor crying in the hallway. He said, "They told me this is what it takes." That was the moment Dwayne left, walked out, went home, didn't sleep. I wasn't invited because they liked me. I was invited because I had proven I would stay silent. But that night, that was the last straw. That was the night he chose not to lie. And just when you thought it couldn't get any more emotional, baby, Dwayne Johnson turned the courtroom into a soul-bearing confession booth and delivered a message that left everyone breathless. As he sat on that stand, his eyes locked straight ahead. Every juror, every lawyer, even Diddy himself was frozen, not in power, but in fear. Because Dwayne wasn't speaking as The Rock. He wasn't there to play a role. He was a man stripped bare, a man who had been owned, controlled, humiliated, and was finally reclaiming his truth. People always ask, why don't stars speak up? Why don't we call things out when we know they're wrong? He paused. The room didn't breathe. Because it's terrifying. He wasn't lying. The court could feel it. He talked about how in his early Hollywood days, the rule was simple. Smile, perform, stay quiet. You're taught not to ruffle feathers, not to name names. You think if I speak, I lose everything I built. And it wasn't just a fear of losing work. It was watching others vanish before your eyes. Sometimes the threat isn't loud. It's silence. You stop getting calls, projects fall apart, you disappear. He looked over at Cassie Ventura's legal team and nodded. Seeing her come forward changed everything for me. It reminded me, silence protects the wrong people. And in that moment, Dwayne's voice got stronger, firmer. He was no longer crumbling under his past. He was rising above it. And then he said it. People think that when you make it, you're safe, you're untouchable, but it's a lie. The higher you climb, the harder it is to speak. The courtroom knew he was speaking for everyone still trapped in those shadows. He opened up about the anxiety, the paranoia, the guilt, the constant fear that he'd be found out, not for something bad, but for simply knowing the truth. You feel like you're part of something you never signed up for, but if you walk away, you're burning bridges no one else will ever rebuild. And then he said the quietest, realest thing yet. Worst of all, you start to wonder, was I complicit just by surviving? The tears came. Not dramatic, not for show, just honest, gut-wrenching pain. And then he looked up, locked eyes with Diddy, and honey, you could hear a pin drop. You made me believe I had to sacrifice myself to succeed, that I had to surrender who I was just to be allowed in the room. He didn't scream, he didn't curse, but the calm in his voice was louder than any explosion. But that wasn't power. That was fear disguised as influence. Everyone could feel it, the shame, the betrayal, the years Dwayne spent carrying a secret so dark it nearly consumed him. And then he said the words that changed everything. I'm not here to cancel anyone. I'm here because I've been silent long enough. And I don't want anyone who looks up to me to think silence is strength. It wasn't about vengeance. It wasn't about clicks. It was about accountability. And I want people in power to know, we see you now. You're not invisible anymore. And then the moment that's already being whispered across every newsroom, every group chat, every Twitter thread. Dwayne turned. He faced Diddy direct, man to man. The Rock spoke to the man who broke him. You don't get to define my legacy. Not anymore. You could feel the earth shake beneath that courtroom. I'm speaking for the ones who were told they had no choice, who were told dignity and dreams couldn't live in the same space. The room went silent. He stepped down from the stand. Every eye still locked on him. He had walked into that room carrying 20 years of pain, but now he walked out a free man. But then he turned around one last time. He looked at the entire room, his voice steady. This story, my story, it's not just about me. It's about the ones who never got to sit in this chair, the ones who didn't survive long enough to speak, the ones still trapped behind the curtain. The judge didn't stop him. No objections, just silence. For decades, Hollywood told us that power justifies abuse, that success comes with a price we can't question. But that myth, it's breaking now, not with revenge, not with rage, but with truth. He paused. His final words hit like a sledgehammer. I stayed quiet because I thought I'd lose everything, but the truth is, I never had anything if I didn't have myself. And with that, a murmur of support broke out in one corner of the courtroom. The public, the press, the people, the silence. Over. To anyone watching this, if you're still wondering whether it's safe to speak up, let this moment be your signal. We're not afraid anymore. No longer afraid. And the system, the one that thought it could outlast the truth, it had no idea how to respond. Hollywood may never be the same again.